With that, well, how you doing? Good morning to you, sir. How you doing?
Good morning, Danny Vaughan, and of course, good evening for you there in lovely Dallas, Texas.
Yes, yes, we're in DFW here. Trying to get.
I'm a big. I tell you what, like I don't know if anyone else has been as glued to it as I have, but I've been, hooked on the series Landman, which of course takes place in beautiful West Texas. There's a lot of Lubbock
Yes,
references, and of course
yes,
the,
yeah,
the head office is there in DFW. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I will
just
tell you, we're behind on Landman. We have a big winter blast coming through. We're going to probably get into this weekend, but I've got every dear mate of mine across the U.S. Is watching it, and I know a lot of my friends over in Australia are watching it. But yeah, it's very interesting too. A little pull the curtain back. About 9-10 months ago, I actually had to deal with a landman uh, out of Midland, Texas, and had to. It was kind of interesting with our family still does farming out in West Texas, and there's occasionally the farmer and the oil folks come together, and we had to do a little
yeah,
business with them. So yeah, I'm well aware of it. I know they do a big thing here. There's always a one of the cool things about Taylor Sheridan is that he's from the area and lives in the area, and his universe is really expanding, obviously, all across the
mm,
TV spectrum. But he's still here very much, and there's always something about, oh, we just saw Sheridan and Billy Bob Thornton at this place or whatever. So it's not
yeah.
uncommon that they have those run-ins here. It takes me back to the time growing up as a kid. When I was a kid growing up, the show Dallas was filmed here. And we'd always see you once in a while would see JR having dinner somewhere with his family or whatever. And it was the actor
Yeah.
Larry Hagman. But anyway, I digress. It's baseball's best mate. I'm Dan Vaughn. He's Paul Morgan. And we've reached the final round of the ABL. By the way, on our podcast, we're glad you're along. You guys on the visual side, you're watching the video. A lot of you folks do download the podcast, so we do appreciate that. But we made the finish line. It seems like it blew by. It did blow by. It was a shorter year. There was no bye weeks. There was no time off during the holiday like we've had before with only the 4 teams. So things did fly down the road rather smoothly. Before we get to the series this weekend, 2 teams went home. 2 teams are playing. We know that Adelaide's going to be going to Sydney to play. Uh, I want to ask you this because we were just talking a little bit off air. If you're a fan of the Brisbane Bandits or the Perth Heat, I mean, it's kind of a weird. I don't think it can be really. I guess part of me knee jerk says, "Well, gosh, how'd you not make it? You have a 1 in 4 chance basically to get the or a 2 in 4 chance, right? I mean, basically, right? I mean, but at the same time, uh, how do you see those 2 teams who didn't make it? What do you see? What's your just sort of the recently put to bed the season with those two? Just your thoughts on Brisbane first, maybe.
Well, I think Brisbane. I think Brisbane. We sort of thought at the start of the year when we looked at their roster, we thought they were a pretty good thing, and I think most, quote unquote pundits expected Brisbane to be in the postseason, and there's I think they still have the best home field advantage of any team, and they just didn't all click for them, and as for Perth, I think this year was probably a little reset year at the same time. I think you looked at guys, some young guys coming through from the west, which and of course TK capping off his year as well, but or his career in Heat colours as well. But look, I think there was always going to be an uphill battle for them this year, and I think. Look, I think the good part is, we said it the whole time. The good part was, the teams all had a shot at some point in the season. There wasn't anyone that got completely left behind. But and now I think the thing that I probably, if I'm a Brisbane fan though, DV, the thing that I think is the most fascinating part is, of course, a lot of their team had Canberra Cavalry players in it, and now if Canberra return to the league next year, their roster looks, assuming guys go back to Canberra, their roster could look a little different. While Perth's probably remains reasonably similar, like Brisbane's could look a completely different sort of look and feel to the Bandits lineup.
It's a really good point, and the reason when Paul and I were talking about this when we came on the air, and what he's referencing, and we're going to talk about that. We've got basically a couple more shows before we go to dry dock for the winter, Australian winter and the U.S. winter, I guess, too. But before we get to open, we'll be back for opening day and all that for Major League. But the thing we're going to get to that. But one of the things that you and I both believe in And I think that I don't. Yes, was this season we're going to get through it? We got through it, and it's the fact we got through it without all four teams surviving. But I don't think there's anybody in the ABL office, Baseball Australia, any fan out there is going to tell you that that's what this competition should be before teams. And I think it's very imperative that, and I'm with you. I think that in just the conversations I've had behind the scenes, what 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 little I've heard, and even what I've heard from North American contacts and contacts there, that Canberra seems like that's a viable situation to get a team back there. Where the other team comes from is anybody's guess, but that creates a really interesting dynamic because if you let's just say those ACT guys that were going back to Canberra, I mean, they weren't on loan, but they kind of were on loan, right? It's sort of like the year, we've had
Yeah.
those where, well, the 20 season in the States where you had players on loan playing in the American Association for, playing for Fargo, and they may have been playing for Gary during the year, but they couldn't play for Gary. They played for Fargo. Good play. So it's sort of like that. That's a really good point. It doesn't affect, and I think, and for you, and I'm with you, for Brisbane's situation, put them up in the air as far as what the roster looks like for the Heat, that's not an issue. You're more than likely gonna see a step forward from the young core that you needed. And we talked about this. They needed some young core guys and some youngsters to get some reps. And yeah, had to say goodbye to TK, which always hurts. We'll talk about it at the very end here in a moment. But I'm with you though. I think it's really interesting, and I hadn't even thought about that. A really good point here on Baseball's Best Made. The other thing, just in general, uh, do you get a sense of relief that okay, we somehow, and again, we're going to talk next week about the things we thought. There's just some things that went right. There were some really good things that have gone right this year that I don't think a lot of people have noticed. I'll throw out one for example. It's just one, but it's what we'll talk about next week a bit. I think Sydney did a great job with some of their social media content, some really fun, engaging things. Now, uh, that's a little thing, but it's a good thing. I would throw out that Adelaide did a great job at the gate. Those are things I'm talking about. Uh, but also, I think as a whole, just getting through it without just somehow getting through it. And granted, we got to get through the weekend, which I think we will. But is there a sense of relief for you? Do you get a sense of relief for the baseball community, baseball WA, maybe perhaps anybody? Is it relief that we got through it somehow, some way?
Yeah, I think, and the crowds in Perth, as they normally do, build towards the end of the year. It's a great Shane Tonkin, of course, legend of Australian baseball and all around top bloke joining us, which is great. But yeah, I think definitely there was there was a real appetite for. There's always such an appetite for baseball here in the West, and I think it was like I think one of the key learnings is maybe, and I know they don't do this because of affiliated players, but I'd love to see the season start later, just to get more baseball into January and February in general, because it's there's beautiful nights at the ballpark, and people love it in the West, and yes, crowds were down, but like I thought towards the end the crowd started to turn up, and so yeah, I think there was definitely by the end there was a bit of a wish there was always more, and yeah, but look, I think. Yeah, I think overall the fact that the season was close and it sort of came down to the last round is probably the huge tick. And but yeah, I think it's a strange sort of year with the four teams, but it is what it is. And like in the end, you've got Sydney with an opportunity to win their first Shield, which we've talked about the importance of Sydney being good in the league from a point of attention around media, which we've spoken about a lot, but. Yeah, so it's a big opportunity for Brook Knight and his men to take the Shield to New South Wales for the first time in the reborn ABL.
And we'll get to the ABL championship in just a moment. I want to ask you too. I want to talk really quickly. As I had to do this last week with you. We had lost connection. You were in the elevator, and I was talking about TK's last hurrah.
Yeah.
I said this last week, and I've said this in matter of fact, I believe the guys in Adelaide reached out, wanted me to give some comments so they could use on the broadcast, and I basically said, look, stats are great, and he's done what the stats tell you. He's one of the greatest that's played the game in Australia, and he's represented the national team as the captain and all this. But what I really find him unique is the fact that I'd look down there on a Friday night or Saturday night there I'll go back to Barbagallo Ballpark days, right? I mean, the old days, right? And I would see him out there signing autographs, taking photos, talking to the kiddos. it's well past 10 o'clock. You and I are taking our stuff, going to the car, we're heading home, and he's still out there visiting with the fans. He's a guy that gets it, and I just say he not only is he greatest, obviously on the field, off the field, he's an absolute legend. He's a quality individual, and I think that in of itself to me, and that's sort of where I'm coming from, because he always inspired me because I always want to. I always told him, man, you're a great dude. I love what you do. You're just a good example for kids and a good example for our game off the field. And I think that to me is as big as anything. Yeah, the numbers are great and being a great ball player, but just being a first class individual in this day and age of a lot of there are not our sports heroes let us down. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, and you're spot on. And I think if contextually you took, I mean, obviously baseball doesn't have as a massive a profile as what other sports do in this country, but if you took, like a guy, let's talk. I don't know, like if you talked, NBA right now, and you talked LeBron James or something like that. I mean, like you're talking about, and I know he gives back a lot, but I think the big thing with Tim Kennelly is exactly that. I mean, he gives back a lot, and he does, through 1623 as well. He's out there coaching the kids and helping the kids. And I think a great example is, if we go back to those Barbagallo ballpark days, DV, we're up there writing game stories when the lights are going out and the mosquitoes and the moths are hitting our screen. The the big difference at that point in time, my son wasn't born, and now he is playing Little League, and he's grown up and he's idolizes Tim Kennelly. He thinks Tim Kennelly's the greatest, and TK's always got time for him as well, which is big. And it's just like like for us as like broadcasters and in and around the game, we see these guys often, but to look at it through a 10-year-old little leaguer's eyes and kind of go, oh, this guy's the best, and TK's high five me, and as you said, he's always got time for an autograph. And they've lost some bad games, and he's always got time. They've had plenty of highs, and he's always got time. And just a class act, as you would say, DV, and just first class all the way.
And he, along with, and there's so many guys in the way, and actually the baseball community in general across the country. When I see that, because I usually, for the most part, I'm there once a year. That's sort of my thing. It's like I spend a couple, about a month a year in Australia. Have for 12 years or whatever, going back now 13 years, and and he's always sought me out. He's always been, hey, DB, good to see you. How things made, how's the family? I mean, he generally cares, right, about those things. He's not just lip service, we like to call it. It's not coach speak or player speak. It's really a genuine thing, and that'll be my takeaway from him. And I know that when I see him again, it'll be much the same way. And I'll miss seeing him play on the field. It's going to be weird next year when I trying to break down. Let's say you and I are calling a game next year. It's going to be weird not seeing him out there. It's going to be weird not seeing a Kennelly out there. Just weird, man.
It was weird when he was injured, to be honest. And there was probably a time that I think, there was a time that Perth this season I felt there wasn't a lot of local guys playing for them in some games, and it was a different feel. But towards the end, I think what made Perth so exciting towards the end was the amount of local guys who were playing for them in the end. And I think that was what was pretty cool. But it was strange not seeing him play, and next year. It was a bit like when Dan Schmidt and these guys, retire. It's just the guys that have been around for a long time.
Those are guys that we, that when I first started.
By the way, it was nice. There was all nice to see it. There's so many old Heat players down there for TK's last game, including the great Dan Schmidt as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really probably the biggest. Yes, I mean the Heat didn't make it, and I was upset because the way the schedule was shorter this year, it was just harder for me to get over there with the basketball commitments, and because the football playoffs went over here till the week before Christmas. I mean that is a blessing broadcast wise, and so I didn't get a chance to get over, and usually I'd be coming over this week. This is my week to come over, right? And so I really regret. Not the playoff. It's the fact that I wasn't there that final home series to see him play. But here on Baseball's Best Mate, Dan Vaughn and Paul Morgan, the Heat. And I think that's one more thing I'm going to say too. I'm teasing for next week, but young players getting a chance, that happened in the West too. That's also a good thing that happened. But we'll
Yeah.
break some of those down a little bit. Going this weekend, we have a little business going on this weekend. We got a Brook Knight led team. Once again, you talked about him a while ago. Brook Knight leading those Sydney Blue Sox. Last year, they were the minor premiers, had the best record, and stumbled in that first round. Now this year, it's a one-round postseason. But they're playing Chris Adamson's Adelaide Giants, who, by the way, every time with the last, it's the third year in a row they played for the Shield, I believe. Is that right, or fourth year in a row?
No, they didn't play. They didn't play last year. Last year was Heat and
I'm
Cavs.
sorry.
Yeah.
3 out of 4 years. So
Yeah.
3 out of 4 years. What I meant. Yeah, because last year Canberra, I knew that. That's my bad. 3 out of 4 years they've been involved in this round, and it's like the new blood who have the numbers, the old guys at least have the shields. It's an interesting matchup from that standpoint. I do wish it was not a 3-game series, which I think bodes well for Adelaide, being that's a 3-game series. Tonight's a big one because you've got your aces for both going tonight. Landon Barraza, who's going just been a innings eater, one of those guys that you go out there and toss the ball to, and if he goes 8 tonight, they should be fine. But of course, across the way, a guy who got out to a slow start, Jacko. We love the kid. He's been great. Got to a slow start, but he's been as good as what we've seen him over the years, the last really month. Well, I think it's 1 earned run in 19 innings, something like that. If that's the matchup tonight, it's delicious.
Sure is, and as you said, like O'Loughlin really started. Like he had a rough start to the season, which obviously he was getting back into his work, and now is massively hitting his straps. He's also obviously projected to be a starter for Team Australia for the World Baseball Classic as well. So this is a big opportunity for Jack O'Loughlin as well to see where he slots in on that rotation for Team Australia as well. As you said, Landon Barraza is a guy, the innings eater, and of course we saw him throw a complete game in a game that Sydney lost because their offense couldn't get around here in the West. But this is. Are you surprised that Alex Wells didn't go one, or you sort of think you ride the game 2 against Hendrickson with Alex Wells?
I like that matchup in game 2. I just think it just seems like you've got a 1A and 1B. And I think I've seen this a lot in the American Association where you get, the Fargo, for example, had a couple of guys, Jake Dykoff, for example, who they just resigned, but they'd roll out. I mean, they really have interchangeable 1A and 1B. If you've got a legitimate rotation, I was just talking to Steve Montgomery about this yesterday, the manager of the Sioux City Explorers, former teammate of Shane Tonkin, is by the way there in Perth. He's trying to rebuild a rotation because he realizes, you can't. You got to have one guy, but if you've got one guy and you got 4 other guys, and you're like your car with 3 flat tires. You need 4 solid starters. That 5th guy, who may or may not be, he kind of maybe a young kid or a developmental guy, whatever. You got to have 4. And if you've got one starter, you need 2. In the 3-game series, you need 3. Let's just be honest. And I've seen it time and time again where you look and go, "Gosh, why did Fargo not start Dykoff this first game?" But when you've got 2 starters like that and 1A and 1B, you're trying to make it a 2-game series. What you're trying to do, and if you've got 2 starters like that, you can make the series a 2-game series because you don't want to go to 3. You're playing on house money, but if you can get it done in 2, if you've got 2 guys who go out there and give you, let's just put it this way: you get 8 and 7 from those 2, the back-to-back nights. That's Sydney's recipe because I think that is what they're going to need to lock it down in the rotation, where every at bat, every out as you get later past the 5th inning becomes that much of a weight around the collar of the batter. And I think that's what you see. So yeah, I have a little thought here. Alex says thoughts on Jack being the pitcher of the year. I was going to get to that too. And what he's talking about there, Paul, I don't know if you saw this. The ABL did announce. This would have come out this morning. Actually, it would have been yesterday evening or late in the day. The Helms Award nominees, and then they have the pitching champion and hitting champion, relief award, and the rookie of the year, defensive. All those I don't know if we want to break them all down, but I mean, he says asking you thoughts on Jack being pitcher of the year noms. Your pitching champions: O'Loughlin, Barraza, and Ferrier for Sydney. Those are the 3 that are nominated for the pitcher of the year. Now your reliever Morgan, Saupold, and Bishop are the three there. Any arguments? Any thoughts on those six names?
I've got a few, but I've got quite a few arguments with a lot of people on this list. But not argue. I think they're all deserving on the list. I think there's people that have missed out. I think Alex Hall's probably pretty stiff to miss out on being in the helms. I think. I think probably Gary Grosjean might be a little stiff to miss out in pitching. I think Caden Nicoletto is pretty stiff to miss out in Rookie of the Year, just purely from a Perth perspective. Look, Landon Barroso, I think, has been the best pitcher in the ABL. I don't think I don't think you can give the award to anyone but Landon Barroso. I just don't think you can. I think he's done better things more consistently across the year, in my opinion. Jack's been great, but he had a real rough start to the year. If you're talking about the body of work across the year, I think like Barroso. I mean, Jack has been incredible lately, but it was a rocky start for him. So I think, I think Farah has been great as well, and then you sort of look at the relief pitching has been great. Not one only Dermot Fritsch, the only Brisbane bow, and also George Khalil as well in Defensive Player of the Year as well, which is surprising as well, just in terms of, again, I had nothing to do with this list, but the three defensive players, and I'm probably even sounding a bit Perth-centric now, to be fair, but Perth had the best defense in the ABL and have no one in Defensive Player of the Year is surprising, but
I want to I'll throw this out there too. I would love this year to talk about an opportunity to get the fans involved. I'd love to get the fans involved in these voting. I think that'd be fun, man. I mean, to me, that's the opportunity there. I think.
Look, there's a lot of guys like Eric Radicek has had a phenomenal year for the Blue Sox, and he's such a danger every time he comes up to hit. Robbie Perkins, I think, when you mix in what Perkins does behind the plate as well, I think he's a really difficult person not to give the Helms Award. So I think and that's where I kind of sometimes I feel with the Helms Award, and this is probably why I put Alex Hall in the category of Helms as well as Robbie Glendenning, as well as Robbie Perkins, is I think you kind of got to look at it from, these guys are hitting at an elite level, but they're catching at an elite level as well. So it's sort of like, so to me, they're probably the name that's missing in the Helms is Hall, just purely, and that's purely because I think his hitting stacks up. Yes, he's stronger from the left side than he is the right side, and has not hit as well against left-handed pitching. But I think you got to look at it like, okay, well, what are these guys doing? And I think Perkins is an absolute Helms Award winner in my opinion, just because, again, of what they're doing with the bat, and in this case, the glove, which I don't know how much.
No doubt, here in baseball. Well, and it should here. I mean, here, baseball's best mate, Dan Vaughn, Paul Morgan with you. Good question, though, Alex. And just quickly, I can give you that. I mean, you guys can go to the ABL, and it just came out last night. I saw it this morning. But you've got, I had it a moment ago up here on the screen. Here we go. You had your Helms, Ward, Perkins, and the Raziak, which I believe he's a Marlins farmhand, if memory serves. I believe he was at Midwest League Beloit last year. And he actually reached Double-A, I think. He played, I think, 18, what more that? He may have played maybe 20 games there at Double-A Pensacola last year. That's your Helms right there, your nominees. Your hitting going to be Ward. Same bunch. Your Helms Award is also your hitting champion. So those three are also your hitting champion awards. And then we've talked about the pitching champions already. You got O'Loughlin, Team Australia, Barasa, Team Canada, which he's also on the roster for the Team Canada, their upcoming run as well. And then we talked about Ferrer as well. And then reliever Morgan, Saupold, Bishop. We talked about that. Rookie of the Year, Drew Davies. Saw a little bit of him on the series, I guess 2 weeks ago when y'all were, or 3 weeks ago when he was in the West. Like what I saw there, Cuba Morgan, and then Josh Bishop, and then defensive player, you mentioned Ward, Fritsch, and then Khalil. I'm surprised there's no heater there. I'm with you on that. I'm a little surprised. But again, those are out right now. Those nominees and just the finalists were voted on by team representatives, accredited media members who engage in the ABL throughout the season. I guess that would be
Yeah.
sort of. I guess I wasn't accredited, but I get it. I get it. I get all the they didn't ask me, but it's all good. I mean, I'm just I digress. But winners will be announced next week. We'll be on our show. We'll be probably be talking about who wins these awards. So we'll get to that next week. Alex says too, I'm a Bandits fan.
Yeah, Radicek
was the best he saw all year.
Yeah.
Small field helps Brisbane and Perkins hitting. That's why the case for Kennedy to be pitcher of the year mix should count for me too. Tough, yeah. That's a tough place to pitch. You're right.
Yeah.
And I used to joke about how his bandbox and I remember a couple of years ago, and remember the year when we talked about this every year when Joshy Kennelly was the EO, and he came out and played a game on a Sunday when the Heat were shorthanded back in 16. He hit a ball out, had swung the ABL in 2 years, hit a long ball out there. I mean, and Joshy get hit, so don't kid yourself. But it is a bandbox, and it's a tough place to play. It's sort of like being a Cy Young Award winner, the old I don't know. Some ballparks in the big leagues, like the old ballpark in Arlington, for example.
I will say this on Lachlan leads. I suppose he leads the ABL in strikeouts, which is strong. But his ERA sits him in fifth. His wins, he's got a 4-3 record. I mean, there are guys above him with better. Tucker Smith has a 4-3 record with a 3.6 ERA versus 3.91. Tucker's thrown 11 more innings. Yeah, he struck out 22 less guys, but across the way, he's also, whip of 120 to a whip of 145. It's interesting. It's interesting where it all sort of shook out, should I say?
Right. Again, great stuff, Alex. And I didn't even have it on my run sheet to talk about it. I just saw it last night. And I'm like, you know what? We'll wait till they announce it. But that's what awards are like that for a reason. One of the best things about awards, besides winning them, obviously winning an award's a big deal, but always brings up discussion about other players. I think good discussion, whether it be for the Heisman Trophy or the Cy Young or whatever it is, the Helms Award, is good discussion. Any discussion, I think that's great. There's always going to be someone left out of the mix. There always is. There's always a debate. Is it a offensive award and all this? And I get it. I think the real one that I think always is the biggest debate is when you get to Hall of Fame numbers, and that just went on this week over here, and that's always fun. But again, it just makes for conversation. But good stuff, Alex. There. This weekend, again, you're looking at. And I guess the analytics, which, you can dive into analytics all you want to. If you want, I get it. It's a big deal. Analytics are a huge deal of things. But I look at the body of work on the rotation. Like I said a while ago, 1A and 1B, Barraza and Wells, they've gone 11-5 combined. What I love about them, and they both have pitched at a high level, both have been in high leverage games internationally, both professionally high leverage games. This is not a new thing to them. This is a very tough 1-2 punch. I guess my question is, what's the 1-2 punch? Is Adelaide's offense is going to be trouble. We know this, but I'm going to break it down simply like this. This is the thing I always say. I said this since I've been doing, almost 2,000 games in the American Association. So I'm just telling you that when I see this, good pitching always takes care of good hitting. If you've got quality pitching, it takes care of good hitting. The question is, what kind of adjustments can Adelaide make offensively to put the pressure on? And it's one of those situations where, much like the major leagues, 3-2 ball game, 4-2 ball game, 5-1, they're going to be close. It's going to swing on one play. And if you can keep those runners off base, that's going to be the key. But again, I always side with the starting pitching. That being said, talk me off the ledge and tell me that Adelaide can do it just because they've done it before.
Well, I will tell you this, that there's a lot of Adelaide hitters have got a fair piece of Landon Barraza this season, notably Jordan McArdle, who's hitting .556 against him this year. Cam Tilly as well. Jimenez has had a great job. Robbie Glendenning from short work. What Colmenez and Davies. And when you look at the individual breakdowns of pitcher on hitter, like it actually bodes quite well for Adelaide in game one. There are, as I said, there are a lot of guys who Ross has struggled as he's obviously had a phenomenal year, but there's just enough for me and I know again the stats mean kind of nothing once you get to this point of the year, but there's enough there for me to go okay, like if we go through the projected lineup of if I kind of I've just lost the screen, but if I can go through the projected lineup of Adelaide, and this is like if you were kind of going, okay, what's our good news story, or when it comes to how we're going to sort of go okay tonight. I mean, I would say their projected lineup is Mitch Edwards, who's hitting 333 against Barossa this season, Drew Davies 375, Nick Ward's 300. So you got your first three are all north of 300. Then you got Colmenez he's also at 333. Glendenning at 250. Then you got Jordan McCullough hitting 556 against him this year. You got Santabon as well hitting 300. Harita's hitting also above 300 at 333, and Ferrabus at $125. So when the worst guy, two guys are hitting below 275, and most of the seven of the nine hitters are hitting above 300 against the starting pitcher. That is, I think that's interesting, and just for Alex, that comes from so we get access to MLB's advanced research.
Yep, MLB Advanced Media out of New Jersey. Yep.
But that I mean that's an interesting matchup. I mean that whole entire team is hitting pretty much above 275 against Barossa, which you'd have to go in feeling pretty confident going into that game if you're Adelaide, I would think.
And one thing too I love about it, and I just Adelaide does when I'm going back to 2012 or our first year together. You had a lot more prospects in the ABL than what we've had the last few years. Now I think Adelaide has been the one with the Phillies connection. The Phillies connection's been good to them. You're seeing legitimate. Santabon is a legitimate prospect. I mean, that's legitimate. The lefty Hill's legitimate prospect. I mean, those are guys that the young kid Velasquez from Venezuela. These are legitimate prospects that Colmenares, another young man from Venezuela, legitimate prospects that you would see. 12, 13, 14, 15, you'd see a lot of, you see those. I love that makeup. So if you're watching this weekend, I would tell you, if you're a fan of North America, you're going to see some prospects, especially the Adelaide side. Sydney-wise, they have 6 affiliated players right now. I think that's right. Leach is a Blue Jay. I know that. They got a couple of Astros. What is it? Huezo and Beck, and then the kid from the Reds, Nunez, and then Jimenez. Yeah, both two pieces of the Reds, who at one time back in the day, the Reds were all over Victoria back in the day. Yeah. So good to see that. But it just seeing the rosters, projected rosters, or the lineups, you're going to see more of what, at least for the Adelaide side, and this is just a personal thing, I love the fact you have a great mix of prospects and South Australian talent mixed in there. That's really what the ABL was prior to COVID, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, I just sort of throw it out there like that. But
and DV for objection, I'll also and for balance, I'll give you the numbers that Jack O'Loughlin have against Sydney's projected starting lineup as well. So
there we go.
So Dylan Leach against. So this is against Jack O'Loughlin only. We've got Leach. I don't think Leach hitting 333, Radicek hitting 400, Joe Stevens is hitting hitless. So Joe Stevens yet to get a hit against Jack O'Loughlin this season. Jimenez hitting 500. Harry Fullerton, he is hitting 250. Huezo is hitting 667 against Jack O'Loughlin this year. Pablo Nunez is 200. Michael Campbell is 400, and Briley Knight is hitting 333. So again, there's plenty of optimism both ways on offenses. So 302 is the average clip that Lachlan's gone against Sydney this year. So neither real starting pitcher has an advantage, and both kind of had trouble kind of navigating and keeping runs off the board for these two teams.
And Adelaide's deep. I mean, again, and this is where I go back and if I'm, and granted, I know that the broadcast could be down the middle, but you'll have a Sydney caller in Adelaide. I believe that's who it's going to be. I believe you're going to have Eric Balliner from Adelaide, I believe, and Andrew Reynolds from Sydney. But that being said, I've been in that spot before in a playoff series, knowing that, okay, if this happens, we're going to be okay. But you can still, and this is the amazing part about playoff baseball, you can still go out and shove for 8 innings and you have a shutdown rotation, and it's the one little thing. Maybe it's the drop ball. I'll give you one. Here's one. This is one that lives in infamy in Sioux City. 2018, Sioux City was the best team in the American Association. Kansas City was the upstart. It was a great series. They go to Game 5 of that first round series, and a ball lost in the lights in a 5-3 ball game. A ball was lost in the lights by a guy named Michael Lang, who was an all-time great in Sioux City, one of the best players in the association. He lost the ball in the lights on a Sunday at right around twilight and lost it. He looked up, a routine play. He makes that play in his sleep, but it was a weird part of the day. 5 o'clock start. It's late in the ball game. Both pitchers were pitching great that night. They had each team had a clutch hit. There was a Jose Sermo, who was a legend in the league. He had a home run. Kansas City had a big time home run as well from a former big leaguer, and there was a lot of that going on, right? So you get to that situation, and the one play in the deciding game was decided by a ball lost in the lights, and it was Michael Lang did nothing wrong. He just couldn't see it, and the ball drops, 2-run score, and that was the difference in the ball game. And it's those little weird things that happen in postseason play. So even though Barrasso may go out and shove tonight, to a complete ball game, but a dribbler a dribbler off the bat and goes to the legs. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and I felt bad for him when he did the complete game in Perth and lost the ball game. But yeah, and as Eric said, I mean, that said, and I think that, look, these two teams, you probably can't really, I mean, you could make an argument either way, but ultimately, I don't really think you can kind of fully go, this team will win, I'm confident, because of why. There's so many each ways. And I think it will come down to simple errors and catching and the words of Nick Wall, catching them. But what I do really like about the way Sydney play, like what I love, that Sydney don't necessarily try to murder every ball. They find gaps. The ground ball with eyes is their friend, and they move. They'll play small ball. They'll play big ball. I think probably like they're also a high energy team as well. Now, whether they cap, and I suppose the risk of that in a way is either you catch all that energy and you use that to your best, or or in the occasion gets sort of too big for some people as well. But yeah, again, I think it's a really delicious, as you would say, DV series, because I just can't see, again tonight, and as Eric said, like Lachlan has been great this second half of the year. He struggled in the first half of the year and has come back in the second half of the year. And Barossa is as good as they go. I just think DV, a big part of this is also a team who's been there, as you said at the top of the show, a team who's been there 3 of the last 4 years versus a team who's never been there. And they're on home field. Experience does matter. That Tank's been there a fair bit. I think Tank would have been in that team that Brooke Knight coached for the Adelaide, then Bart, now Giants at that time. But
I believe, yeah, he was when Brooke was managing the Giants, which was the Bite. He was on that team that played Perth there at the Oval. That the famous game at the Oval, that series that with the netting and right and all that. That was Norwood. That was he was on that team. I'm right about that. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. There's a great.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Tom Bryce and co. But
you remember that story? You remember the story about how we watched that? I mean, I was not. Yeah. That was a year I had visa issues, and to bring back some of the old names of the ABL, Chris Coleman long time, obviously done ABC radio and did the Canberra games forever. We did a virtual Zoom watching party, and it was the middle of the night over here in the States, about 25 degrees out. And it was him and it was a couple other folks, and you guys would chime in and text into us and all that because y'all were there.
Yeah.
And I just really remember sitting in the middle of the night, dark office with the screen. I was like just trying to watch the game and listen to and talking back and forth with Chris. Great memory of that series. I remember that series. That's a great one.
Well, and you know what? Like, maybe it says something about me, but there's still the one thing that I remember so much about the series is they were cooking this lamb out in the corporate area on these coals, and they had like a massive lamb, and I think they had some pork on rotisserie, and the smell was just unbelievable. And I can still and it was the most perfect marketing ever because the smell went into the crowd. It was the best smelling lamb I've ever smelt in my life. But I still remember that from that series. And Norwood was such an iconic place to play baseball. But DV, I'm glad that Sydney got the opportunity to host. We'll rounding third, heading for home. Time for our predictions on who's going to have.
So yeah, I know we got derailed. We always get derailed a little bit quickly. Yeah. By the way, thanks, Eric. He's talking about the finalists, the top 3 votes. Let's see. Alex was asking Eric about nomination awards. Again, like we said earlier, it's great. These discussions on awards, and Eric, I don't know if you caught it earlier. Part of the greatness of awards is the discussion about it, and it gets us all talking about it. And Eric was just kind of telling you how it went down. Great stuff there. Let's see here. And good to see Wendy out there as well. Ethan says, always great to see you guys. Who are some of the Team Australia guys? Keep an eye on this series. Well, they're loaded all over the place in this thing. Let's just go. I got the roster right here. Where is it?
I did see. I did see. Which is this cap I'm wearing here? Is the Team Australia hat? I did see there was a few guys across social media ranking the World Baseball Classic hats, and Australia ranked highly.
Well, you're going to have. I mean, you've got tons of. I mean, just look at the. Just your Australian players that I'm looking. I don't have the Team Australia roster in front of me, but I got the rosters.
Well, I don't think, but you don't. I don't think the 35-man roster has not been announced yet. But of course,
there's some names on there. Their names. The names are on there. The Wells of the world. You've got of course
Robbie Glendennings.
Geyer, Ray. You've got Hendrickson, Robbie Glendenning. Let's see, who am I missing? These are all guys that you've seen over the years. You can Todd Van Stencil some time in the team as well. They're all over that roster. So
and even like a Briley Knight, and then say Cooper Morgan and Josh Bishop as well. I mean, this is a big series for some fringe guys as well as to whether they.
And it matters. From
what I understand is. A 35-man roster had to be submitted, which obviously can be altered. From what I understand, I don't think anyone knows if they made the team or not, outside of obviously Curtis Mead, Travis Bazzana, and Liam Hendricks, who have been promoted on the MLB channels. But it's a big series for a couple of these guys. A couple of guys on the fringes, a big series and big spots. And the other thing I really hope is I hope that Sydney get behind it. I hope that ballpark can really get rocking. If you go back all the way to 2010, they had the highest attendance in the league, highest average attendance in the league. You go down to this season, and it doesn't paint the same picture. But I just really hope they can recapture a lot of people who have probably not attended Blue Sox games for a little while.
It's got to start. Let's just say they win it, because I believe this is for next week's show and down the road. I believe Adelaide's on a really good spot fan-wise. They had a great attendance this year, up 15%. The beach is a fun place. I love going there. We've been there a bunch of times. Baseball's alive and well in Adelaide, which is great. But we need it alive and well in all of our markets. And Sydney is again, I'm being the American here. Most Americans can name two things about Australia. They can name Sydney, and they say dumb things like shrimp on the Barbie. That's the things that do American things they say, because they don't know any different. They don't know they don't know they don't know Adelaide exists. Not I mean they've heard of it, but they don't know the beautiful part about Adelaide. It's a beautiful city. They don't know much. They know a
Yeah.
little bit about Melbourne, but even Melbourne they don't know a lot about it except the Aussie Open. There's not Perth. They have no idea where it is. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make excuses, but
No,
you want
and
that market to be good. You want
yeah,
Sydney to be good.
we've said that since the time we've been covering this league. Sydney being good is really important to the growth of baseball, and I think
They can
if
go out, yeah, they can go out and
yeah,
sell it. They can go out and say, "Look, we won the Claxton Shield. Come support us. We're going to go back to back."
yeah,
That's huge, man. You're right. You're right.
I
Sorry,
won
so you
that
asked
day
me.
there. Who
Yeah, right.
wins?
Yeah. Who wins?
Who holds the shield?
Again, I'm going to go with good pitching beats good hitting. I know that's the easier way out. I really believe Sydney wins this series. The offense scares me for Adelaide. They are so good offensively. I mean, I watched that. I went back and watched part of the weekend, the first two ball games. I watched all of those. They're scary good. And I like the way they work counts. I think that's going to be huge. Something tells me that pitching is going to be the key in this one, the starting pitching. I still believe they'll play 3 ball games. I think it'll be 2 close ball games tonight. I think the final game will be a barn burner, offensive showdown where I think Sydney out offenses Adelaide. So give me the Blue Sox to win in 3.
Yeah, I agree. I think if it goes to 3, probably game 3, the pendulum swings in Sydney's favour. I like the matchup in game 2 for Adel for. Sorry, I like Sydney's matchup in game 2. I think tonight is the game that that I think Adelaide have got to win. I feel like they do win tonight. Adelaide, I just think that perhaps this will be a big momentum for Sydney. I think they might win tonight, then Sydney win Saturday and Sunday, in my opinion. I'd love to see Brooke Knight hold the shield again. Look, Giants, huge fan of Tank as well, and I certainly see Tank as the future of Australian management. I think he's
Absolutely.
done such a good job.
Absolutely.
There, but yeah, Brooke Knight. I mean, he's given so many years to the ABL, and he's obviously won it with Perth. But it'd be just. I think it'd be great. He's a first class guy as well as, and it's good to see good people win things as well. And I think he deserves a ring, and it'd be great for him. I think just for to win one with his son would be great. And I think
Yep, Riley. Yeah, I'm with you. I have no problem either. I love all those folks in Adelaide. My mom still talks about the trip there a few years ago. She's still talking about it. I love going there. They're great people. We've got dear mates there, and I think the world of Brooke. But I just think I'm going from a competitive standpoint. I believe Sydney wins it with the pitching. But from a emotional standpoint, where the game is and where we need to go, I really think Sydney needs to get the win. I just think from that standpoint, and we'll talk more about that next couple of weeks. We can watch it on Baseball Plus as well. What are you? You're not broadcasting this weekend, so what do you got going on this weekend? It's going to be hot there in the West. So what are you going to be
Yeah, I
doing?
was actually
Surfing
going
or
to
what?
be a bit relief from the heat actually this weekend. It's a little bit cool. So no, just a long weekend this weekend in Australia with Australia Day on the Monday. So
Yeah, it's weird. We're not playing ball on Australia Day. It's so
yeah,
weird. We
yeah,
all play ball on Australia Day.
it is weird, but no, it's just
Strange,
so
right?
get into the weekend, and it should be a cracker. Then yeah, I get on Baseball Plus and watch it because and support it, and and then we'll
Well,
turn it over to the US of A to World Baseball Classic is sort of next after that, I
World
guess.
Baseball
DP.
Classic. Then it's go X's, go Sioux City.
Go Sioux City.
Hey, mate, I'll let you go. I know you got the holiday ahead of you, and I'll let you go. There he goes, Paul Morgan. Great work. We're going to sign off right here. I'll let him go there, and we'll round third. I'm slotting in that plate. Again, thanks for you folks that stopped by for the podcast. Thanks for stopping by and downloading. A lot of you folks do that. You're watching the replay. Thank you very much. A big thanks to Eric as well, the ABL, and the entire crew there. Really, they do great work. I think what Eric and what he's had to do. He works for the Giants, with the Giants, but he also works for the league. He's done a great job this year, and big tip of the cap for the work they've done. It's got to be frustrating. I'm there. I understand. I work in the smallest market, the American Association, but we get great coverage, and it takes traction. They're doing a good job in trying to get traction, and I tip the cap, man. So thank you for that for the efforts as well. Thanks for stopping by for 5 minutes or the entire time. We'll be back next week. Again, next week, I'm going to give you, I got 5 things that I believe, and Paul and I've already talked about this. I got 5 things that happened this year that maybe you saw or didn't see that were good for our league. And we may be able to add to it this weekend if the right things happen. And the following week, we'll break down kind of where we think this thing should go. And it's 2 weeks from time. It's going to be, us, what we do every year, kind of say the good, the bad, the ugly, but where can we go from here? But we're not there yet. I want to get through the season before we get to that point. We'll do that then. And again, you can join us right here on our Facebook page, also on our X account, and of course, always on our socials. We got those social links on the very end of this close as well. So again, for Paul Morgan, I'm Dan Vaughn. Thank you for stopping by. Let's be better fans tomorrow or today. I show more love tomorrow today going forward in 26. Have a great baseball weekend. Hope your team wins. If you're in North America, stay warm. If you're in Australia, stay cool, man. We'll see you guys next week on Baseball's Best Mate right here.
Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for its fruit.